This microphone sounds better, right, than this? Or is it the same? Same, okay. Hope you guys don't mind if I walk around. I've done a lot of youth ministry in the past, so usually I try to be very animated when I speak. Today we're celebrating Joseph, Solemnity of St. Joseph, the father, the adopted father of Jesus, a man of hope. And like I said, this year, the year of Jubilee, the Pope is calling this year Pilgrims of Hope. Joseph was a man of hope. And we hear in the readings that he was already with Mary. In their custom, they would have this marriage covenant, and then he would go and prepare the house for her. They would still not live together, and then he would take his wife into his home. And that's when Mary became pregnant. Now, of course, it's difficult to understand or even believe this. Most of us think that Joseph doubted in Mary, which makes sense. Who can believe this? Now, the fathers of the church, some of them say that Joseph knew Mary very well, and that he did not doubt Mary, that the son that Mary was going to have was the Son of God. The fathers of the church say that perhaps Joseph doubted himself. How could he be the father of the Son of God? How could he, a human, fragile man, have this role in humanity? And because of that, he wanted to leave. Whatever the reason was, Joseph doubted, either in Mary or in himself. And doubt is an obstacle to hope. Fear is an obstacle to hope. So what is hope? I don't know, anybody read the book, Hope Rising? It's the science of hope. They say that you can reduce hope to science. One thing about hope, first thing, hope is not a feeling. Again, hope is not a feeling. Hope is a way of thinking. So why is this huge? Because that means that we could learn to live in hope, just like we could learn to add 2 + 2 = 4. People can learn to live in hope. And when you live in hope, you're healthier, you have better relationships, you're more successful, you're more generous, and you're closer to God. Hope changes everything. And we can learn to live in hope. But like Joseph, we tend to doubt and we fear. Our mind can be an obstacle. Our mind is an obstacle. You know, they say we have about 60,000 thoughts every day. 60,000 thoughts every day. And 80% of them are negative. Did you know that? We're constantly doubting and fearing. It's going on and on. How do we live in hope? When we're doubting and fearing constantly. 80% of our thoughts are negative. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Mike. And Mike was really upset. And then the neighbor came and he said, Mike, why are you so upset? You know, the neighbor, Elizabeth, she brought me a box. I thought it was a gift. I opened the box and it was a rat. A big, fat rat. And now the rat is loose in my house. The rat's going to have baby mice. He's really upset. Oh, Mike, I'm so sorry to hear that about Elizabeth. What about a horrible neighbor? And he left. The next day, he goes back, and Mike is feeding the rat. Eat, rat, eat. Mike, what are you doing? I'm feeding the rat. Why would he feed the rat? So that everyone can see what Elizabeth did to me, so they can see. Mike, that doesn't make sense. Why don't you just let it go? Let the rat go. How would I complain if I let the rat go? Eat, rat, eat, eat. That's what we do. People can do things to us, but then we feed it in our minds. You know, they say that any feeling only lasts about 90 seconds. Fear, doubt, anger, 90 seconds, that's it. And then the feeling goes away. But why is it that we hold on to feelings for days, for weeks, for months? Because we're feeding the feeling with our thoughts. We're feeding the rat. So next time you're really angry for days, and somebody asks you, what are you doing? I'm feeding the rat. You know? You're just feeding the anger. And that's an obstacle to hope. Hope is a way of thinking. So we could change the way we think. We could refocus our mind. And that's the beginning of hope. But hope is more than that. Hope is not optimism. Hope is not wishful thinking. Let me tell you the difference between optimism and hope. This is optimism or wishful thinking. Tomorrow will be better than today. That's being optimistic. Hope is this. Tomorrow will be better than today. And I have the power to make it happen. And this is Christian hope. Tomorrow will be better than today. And I, with the grace of God, have the power to make it happen. Hope requires action. It begins in your mind, but it requires action. And this is the science of hope. And they say 3 things for hope: goals, pathways, and the power of the willpower. We need all 3. We need to think about the future. We need to have goals. We have to have pathways, and then willpower. And of course, our thoughts are going to get in the way. Over and over and over and over. We have to decide what we let into our minds, what we feed, what we look at. Hope is a way of thinking. St. Joseph, he doubted. But then the angel came to St. Joseph, and then he took action. He didn't just think positive thoughts. He took his family into his house. And then when the time came that they had to be refugees, he took them to Egypt. He took action to protect his family because he believed that God would be with him. Another thing about hope. Hope is contagious. You know that. The more you live in hope, the more impact you have in other people. Just like discouragement is contagious, so is hope. Hope is a way of thinking. Hope is contagious. And the more you live and you believe in hope, the more hope comes to your life. Hope begets hope. Goals, pathways, and willpower. Now they say that willpower is limited. We don't have a lot of willpower in the world. That's why you have to be very careful where you spend your energy. Where you spend your energy, because that's going to make a difference. And there will be times where it seems that your willpower is not enough. And that's where the power of God comes in. That's when the grace of God comes in. There is a young lady named Chiara Bandano. She's a blessed. Anybody heard of her? When she was 17 years old, she started feeling some pain in her bones. She loved to play tennis. And then she went to the doctor, and they said she had cancer in the bones. When they told her this, they said that she went to the car with her mother. She's in the 70s, so not too long ago. And her mother was very upset. And Chiara said, "Mom, give me a few minutes." So she took 25 minutes to connect with God. She opened up her eyes and she said, "Mom, I'm ready to face cancer." They call that the 25 minutes of Chiara. That's when you connect with a power that's greater than yours. You put all that you can in the right place, but then you let God do the rest. That's what St. Joseph did. He did what he could. He took action, but then he trusted that God would do the rest, that God would do the impossible. And that's living in Christian hope. About 7 years ago, they called me in Tijuana, and they said, they found some liquid in my mom's lung. I told my sister, I'll go to LA immediately. And for some reason, I had a really bad feeling. My sister said it's just liquid. They don't think it's very serious. So they did the surgery, and then they told their family it's cancer. And it wasn't cancer in the lung. It was cancer in the pancreas. It had spread to the lungs. We saw 3 months of just so much pain. I'm the priest of the family. So I have to be strong for everybody else. And I remember the day when she was already very sick. She was in a hospice with the Carmelite sisters. And we were all there because it was a big room. We would stay over. She was never left alone. And then she was already not doing well. And I told one of the sisters, "Sister, I might fall asleep. It was really late. Can you come and check my mother's heart rate and blood rate around 2 o'clock and tell me what's going on?" And I fell asleep. And then she woke me up and she says, "It's all going down now. Your mother is dying." So I woke up all my siblings. We called the rest of the family. It was 4 a.m. Everybody come. My mom, this is the end. You're never ready for that. No matter how strong you are or you think you are. And I remember Kiara and other saints. So I went to the bathroom and I had a moment with God, my 25 minutes. And I say, God, I can't do this. This is too much because I have to go back and I have to do the readings and the blessings that priests do before someone dies to your mother. And I just took a few moments, and then suddenly you feel a force inside of you, the grace of God. And I came back, we prayed with my mother, I said the readings, the prayers, and she died with all of us there. Many times in life, things will seem impossible, so difficult. We can't do this. And that's when the power of grace comes in. The 25 minutes of Kiara that she says, Mom, I'm ready to face cancer now. So anytime where my willpower is not enough, that's when I realize that the power of God is so big. We put whatever we can, and God does the rest. To live in hope is to believe that not even death is the end. To believe that no matter how dark things seem, no matter how difficult things seem, that there is a way out. That things will be better tomorrow than today. And that I, with the grace of God, have the power to make it happen. I'm going to ask all of you to close your eyes for a few seconds. What are some of the difficulties that you're facing now? What is some of the darkness, fears, doubts? Hope is believing that tomorrow will be better than today. And that you, with the grace of God, have the power to make it happen. Hold on to that. Tomorrow will be better than today. Please open your eyes. Just to finish this homily on hope, about 26 years ago, Father Callahan went to Tijuana, the poorest part of Tijuana, with a lot of hope. He knew that their lives could be better if somebody believed. And he started the mission in Tijuana about 28 years ago. He lived in a mortar home the first few years. But he had a vision. And he knew that with the help of God, lives will be transformed. Now the parish that we have, it's one of the biggest. Still very poor. But with a lot of leadership and a lot of hope. We started a scholarship program. And thanks to the scholarship program, we have doctors, lawyers, engineers, psychologists. People that came from extreme poverty. And they now have so many reasons to give back and to live in hope. I remember the first time that I was there, the first year. There was a guy that would come to our mission all the time. And then it was raining and he stopped coming. And he came back. He looked very pale. And I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "No, Father, I'm not." I said, "Come on, let's talk." I said, "What's going on?" It had been raining. The roof from his house collapsed. He lives alone because his mother lives in another place. So he spent the next few days cleaning up the house, fixing things that were broken because of the roof collapsing. And then he started crying. And I said, "Did you eat?" He said, "No, Father." In over 3 days, he had not eaten anything. It had been raining. He was too embarrassed to ask. And I remember that day that I said, "Hold on." The first thing I did, I went to the refrigerator. I put a plate together and I put it in the microwave. And I started crying. All of a sudden, this was for you. There are so many people around the world that don't have the opportunities, the blessings that we have. I gave him the plate and I say, "Please, don't let this happen again. You're not alone. You're not alone. We're here to help you." And that day I remember that I realized that's where I'm supposed to be in Tijuana. And our goal, your goal, everyone's goal is to bring hope to others. And hope is contagious. And the more you give hope, the more you will have hope in your life. Hope is a virtue. Hope is God in us. The power of God that says tomorrow will be better than today. And you, with the grace of God, have the power to make it happen. Please stand.